Akira is probably the most famous anime, which is saying something. This one was popular before the relatively recent anime revolution. For some reasons, cartoons became something that was for children only. It started out more for adults. If you've ever seen the old Flintstones TV series, which is basically just a sitcom, or if you've watched the old Looney Tunes stuff, you know that it was originally more geared toward adults, but at some point it changed and became a kids only thing. And so anime struggled for a long time to be accepted. Akira was one of the few exceptions to that rule. It has some amazing animation. It really is mind blowing, a lot of the things that they managed to pull off, especially the transformation scenes. Those scenes are probably the most famous thing about the film, but there's a lot of other cool stuff there. The explosions, there's a lot of really chaotic riot scenes. You, of course, have the giant Blade Runner city. There are a lot of very trippy, imaginative scenes whenever the psychics battle. There's a lot of little details and gags like the antics of the bikers as they're walking along. Loving detail is put into everything, into the buildings, into the vehicles, into the controls and displays. The story is actually fairly complex. A massive sudden explosion destroys Tokyo. This leads to a third world war. In the aftermath of this war, a new Tokyo has been built. I think this might be the first of many, many Neo Tokyos, but it's hard to say. Post war Japan is descending into chaos. There's economic problems, there's riots, there's problems with biker gangs, and on top of it all, there's a new religious movement that worships a mysterious figure called Akira. An orphan delinquent named Kaneda leads a biker gang in a vigilante war against a group of clown bikers. During an engagement, a fellow orphan that he grew up with named Tetsuo gets into a wreck when he almost runs into a psychic that has escaped from a facility. The government takes him in, finds that he has gained psychic powers from this incident, and he starts a journey to becoming this extremely powerful being. But the problem is he can't control those powers, and so it's up to his friend Kaneda to try to stop him, to try to reason with him, and if necessary, to kill him. He gets help from a resistance movement that wants to figure out what's going on with the psychic research program. They oppose the corrupt government. The corrupt government is a big part of this story. There's a whole subplot about it. There's a young woman involved in the resistance, and of course, Kaneda chases after her. Kaneda and Tetsuo's relationship is complex. Tetsuo is very jealous of Kaneda, even though they're like brothers. Kaneda protected Tetsuo when they were in the orphanage. Tetsuo is afraid of being weak, of relying on others. He's resentful of his position in life. Tetsuo is obsessed with proving himself, which is mirrored by Kaneda's obsession with the girl. Other things about their journeys pair up, such as struggling to operate a vehicle with a girl on board. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, and the hot-headed Tetsuo sprints into that. Tetsuo's fall and Kanada's attempt to rescue him, to rehabilitate him, and if that fails, eliminate him, is mirrored by the Colonel and his attempts to salvage the government. A civilization in decline, descending into chaos with the corrupt authorities impotent to stop it. Why does that sound so familiar? This story does take place in 2019, so they weren't that far off the mark. But I do know that there were a lot of civil issues in Japan in the past, a lot of riots and things. And so this is probably heavily influenced by that. This is the writers expressing their feelings about what was happening in their country back then. And I couldn't help but notice that the scene in the school where the boys are getting yelled at after being arrested the night before, and they're getting smacked around and stuff, and it's all very abusive and ineffective and just completely misses the point of what the problems are. That felt very personal to me. Personal both as in I've experienced it, and I think that the writer did as well. Of course, we have the destruction of the city, which I can't help but compare to the destruction of the cities in Japan, not just from the nukes, but from the bombing that took place before that. Of course, the film isn't perfect. It's going to have all of those tropes that anime would become infamous for, like constantly showing people being shocked and exclaiming, "What?" or something like that. You get a lot of panning shots on what is actually still frames, but you need to do things like that to save money for the absolutely amazing animated sequences. Another thing that this film has become absolutely infamous for is that the two protagonists constantly yell out each other's names. It really does get repetitive, and it's something that anime in general is guilty of characters calling out each other's names. Despite this, the voice acting in the English version is surprisingly good. One problem with watching old school anime is that it can have very, very bad dubbing. I also have to mention that the music works perfectly. I think it's very possible for people to view Tetsuo as a whiny jerk and to see Kaneda as kind of a bumbling idiot. He's meant to be sort of a silly rascal type character, but instead he can come off as just being a buffoon. Akira would go on to be the inspiration for countless things. The video game Fear would blatantly steal its premise of an undead, super powerful psychic being influencing the world. The design of Kaneda's motorcycle has become iconic. The Akira slide has been referenced so many times that it started to annoy people. That diagonal freight elevator and the chamber that Akira's remains are held in appears here and there. 80s cyberpunk will always be among the best shit. The Japanese did it better than anyone else. Some great stuff would follow Akira. We'd see hundreds of Neo Tokyos, and they'd all be awesome.